How's it going, guys? Jordan Syatt here. A lot of you know me as Gary Vaynerchuk's personal trainer. I hope you enjoyed the first part of this series, which was Gary Vaynerchuk's 3 favorite hip mobility exercises. This video is going to be Gary Vaynerchuk's 3 favorite back exercises. So first, if you missed the hip mobility, go into the description. We put the link to that video there. And in this video, we're gonna outline his 3 favorite exercises that helped improve his back mobility and eliminate his back pain. So for the first exercise, if you've been following me on Instagram, which right here, Rico's gonna put my handle right here, then you've probably seen this blue ball when I put up stories and posts of me coaching Gary. And this blue ball has gotten a little bit famous over the years because Gary's been using it so much. This is Gary's favorite exercise tool. It's an Acumobility Ball. By the way, I'm not getting paid for saying this. It's a company that I love and trust. But you could also just use a lacrosse ball or a baseball if you wanted to, although the laces can be a little bit hard on that. You can use a softball if you want something a little bigger. Again, the laces might be a little bit too much. Tennis balls work. Either way, this dense ball has been Gary's favorite tool that we use every day to improve his soft tissue quality. And basically, for his back, what we've done is we've been able to target the points on his back, the trigger spots, the trigger points that are really tight, really overactive, and by pressing into them with this, we've been able to get them to shut up, to quiet off, to stop being so overactive, and so that when we eventually strength train, he's not overusing the wrong muscles, which is when a lot of people hurt their back. I'm gonna show you how I use this with Gary, and imagine you have a lacrosse ball, a tennis ball, whatever, or if you wanna go to Acumobility and order your own, totally fine. Basically, what we do is we get on the ground. Gary's major tight spots and trigger points, like most people, tended to be in his lower back on either side of his spine. It's not directly on the spine. It's really important to remember, it's not on the bone, but on either side. And specifically for Gary, it was more his left side. Everything from his left hip to his back, all the way to his left shoulder, everything seemed to go towards his left, and that's what we found. So we focused a lot on his left side here, and what we would do is we would just have Gary lie down with this ball and find a spot and just sit on it. Just like this. Sit on it, and he would have to move it around. It's a little guess and check. You don't usually find it right away, but once you find a spot that really lights you up, you sit on it and just stay there for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing in and out, and then you move. Go to another spot. One of the biggest mistakes that people make with this when they're using a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, something that rolls, is they do too much rolling back and forth. When you want to improve your soft tissue quality, you don't want to roll back and forth over and over and over again really fast. You actually want to go nice and slow, find one spot, sit on it, let it sink in, and then go to the next spot. Looking at it more of a long-term approach, trying to fix something over the course of weeks and months rather than trying to fix it in this one individual session. And you might do 5-10 minutes of this soft tissue work per day before you start mobilizing, before you start actually working out, and it can be very, very, very helpful. And a lot of times what will happen is you'll do this on your lower back, several minutes, and you'll immediately feel some form of a release. You'll feel lighter, you'll feel looser, you'll have more mobility, and it doesn't mean that you automatically have that mobility forever, but transiently, in the short term, you'll have more mobility, you'll feel more relaxed, you'll feel better, and if you do it consistently every day, over time, it can seriously improve your back pain. All right, so for this next exercise, a lot of people wouldn't expect it, but if you have tight hamstrings, your hamstrings are gonna tug on your hip, and your hip is gonna tug on your back, and that leads up the chain to back pain, achiness, tightness, and it can really suck. And when I first started working with Gary, his hamstrings were unbelievably tight, like world record tight. And he laughed. He told me he likes knowing that he sucks at something or he needs improvement in something, because that means he can always get better. And that was one of the first lessons I learned from him. But anyway, this hamstring exercise is one of my all-time favorites. You want a small bench, something short, relatively close to the ground. If you even have something a little bit lower than this, that's perfect to start with. I don't recommend going much higher than this. Usually a bench in your gym that is like a bench press, that's fine enough, but you don't want something too high. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put your foot up on the bench and you're gonna point your toe towards the wall in front of you. Most people in this position, you're gonna feel some type of a stretch in your hamstring already. From here, you're gonna put your arms out and you're gonna send your butt back to the wall behind you. And it's really important because it's gonna look like I'm reaching to the wall with my hands, but that's not what I'm doing. If I reach the wall with my hands, what I do is this. And that is not what I want you to, it's not bending your lower back, it's not reaching as far as possible. The point is to stretch your hamstrings. So you're here and you send your butt back to the wall behind you. It's a much smaller range, but a much more intense stretch on your hamstring. So you just go back and forth, just like this. A couple things to pay attention to. Gary, he always used to do this. If you watch his old YouTube videos, you'll see his neck was out a lot like this. We laugh about it now. And so we had to work on keeping his chin tucked and not trying to get range with his neck, but getting it with his hip. Boom. So do about 10 forward this way, and then stay leaning slightly forward. You don't want to come up tall like this. Stay leaning slightly forward. Rotate to the side. Over the leg that's up. Just rotate here. What's important to note, I'm not doing this. I'm not moving my arms. I'm moving my torso and my hips. And this is what drives that movement. And you're gonna feel a huge stretch in your hamstring here. And then you do both sides. I would do 10 forward, 10 rotational, and this exercise will drastically improve your hamstring mobility, which will also help your back. So for the last stretch, if you ask Gary what his all-time favorite back stretch is, I'd put money on him saying this is it, because this is the stretch that really changed things for him. And I actually made a big post about it on my Instagram. You can put it here, maybe. Link will be in the description. Basically, it shows the difference in 1 year, January 1st, 2018 to January 1st, 2019 of Gary's progress with this stretch. It was unbelievable. He got pretty emotional as we were talking about it because the improvement in this stretch was markedly significant in how his back felt over the course of the year. I'm gonna show you the way that I would instruct a group of people to do it because it's much simpler. If I was with you one-on-one and I knew how well you balanced, I might show you exactly how I had Gary do it, which is like this, but this is a little bit harder to balance. So I'm gonna show you the basic way to do it, which is equally as effective, so don't think it's not as effective, it's equally as effective. It's just another way of doing things. Get in a wide stance, and this is gonna stretch what's called your QL, your quadratus lumborum. From here, I like to get one hand on my hip, one hand up, and use this hand to push my hip towards that wall. Reason being, I don't just want you trying to reach or bend backwards. I want, again, the motion to really come from the hip, so you reach forward. And from here, a lot of people make the mistake of coming back, right? So I'll show you from the side view. People will come here and they'll go into their lower back, but then you end up getting a lot of stretch in your abs, maybe obliques a little bit, and not actually where you want it in your QL. So instead of going back, you push your hips to the wall and actually come slightly, just ever so slightly forward. And then you're gonna feel a big stretch through your lower back here, your QL, and you just hold it. Hold this, breathe in and out, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Hold this for 20 to 30 seconds, then you switch sides. Really fantastic stretch, incredible for improving your lower back mobility. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you didn't see the hip mobility one, make sure you click that link in the description. The shoulder mobility video is coming out soon, so hit subscribe and turn the bell on so you make sure you get notified when that comes out. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.